Good morning, everybody. Happy Friday. I hope you had a peaceful night and a peaceful start of your day. This is our AM actual news, and I'm very happy to bring the actual news to you. Maybe the news is not as happy, but is as predictable, as sad as it can be. So, we're going to start, of course, with the looming government shutdown, what it would mean, how did we come to this, what's causing this, and who is celebrating and who is against it. All right. I'm in a humid environment, hence the hairdo. So please disregard that. But good morning. I'm very happy to connect with you live today. Thankfully, it's Friday. Hey, yes, Kelly. Good morning. Good morning. Happy day to all. Indeed. Well, Friday is good because Saturday, Sunday, government is off anyway. So nothing bad can happen at least. Happy day to everyone. Hi, Rosie Marie. Good morning. Good morning, guys. Thank you so much for joining. And of course, good morning, Alexander. Good morning. Put a sunshine too. Yay. Alrighty. So, of course, government shutdown. The U.S. federal government is set to partially shut down at 12:01 a.m. ET unless President Biden will get something on his desk to sign, right? In simple terms. What was expected to be a smooth process has been complicated by President elect Trump and shadow President Musk, I would say, uh, because they are overstating their welcome. And just to put it out there, before we even get into the nitty-gritty and have a readout, Musk has not been nominated. He hasn't been elected. He is a private citizen, billionaire, gazillionaire. Who cares at this point? Billionaire based on what? On our taxpayer money, on federal support. That's what made him billionaire. That's what makes him to this day a billionaire. This aside, this is a private citizen who somehow is granted access to Congress and to the House, and he threatens people openly. He threatens Democrats. He threatens Republicans, saying, unless you are voting the way I tell you and dictate you to vote, I will personally invest in anti-campaign for you, so you will lose your seat in 2 years. How is this allowed? Why is it allowed? We're still having Biden-Harris administration. Can we please have some rules, norms? I'm not sure. Can we get rid of this? The good news on that regard is that Musk is really tone deaf. I mean, maybe it's his sickness or whatnot related, Asperger's or whatever, but he is tone deaf as to when to speak and when to shut up. And this goes very much against Trump's agenda and his persona. So it's, we're really in the 11th hour of their relationship breaking, which is, I guess, good news, but it's happening on a very accelerated basis. So it's happening now before they even are officially, at the White House. They meaning Trump and his, I guess, first lady or whatever his status is, Musk. But certainly that's them orchestrating a problem. They orchestrated a problem. They threatened people to vote against the bill. Then they realized that's not going to happen. Then they started flipping around. They started eliminating aid, and I'll tell you for what, which is like obnoxious. Then they threatened people who will not vote in favor of the bill. That didn't go through. And now they're threatening to shutting everything down and threatening everybody, right? So it's just creating chaos, and it's not profitable for anybody but our adversaries. Because if the government is shut down, yes, there will be delays if you are traveling. And I understand this is horrible given the holiday travel. A bunch of things will be shut down, but also things like aid to Ukraine will not go through. Things like even what Taiwan paid for, $3 billion for the planes, that will not go through. So who's profiting from all of this is certainly adversaries, China, Putin, and so on. China, Russia, and so on, right? So the situation began on Tuesday when GOP House Speaker Mike Johnson unveiled bipartisan spending plan to fund the government through March 14th. But it included provisions unrelated to government funding, which angered right-wing Republicans and Musk. On Wednesday, Musk used his social media platform to criticize the bill. By the way, he posted over 150 tweets in one day. rallying his following of 200 million followers to go against it, to call your representative, to tell them to vote against the bill, right? So Trump escalated the situation by announcing his opposition to the bill on Wednesday evening. Trump then shifted his position on Thursday, demanding a bill that would either raise or eliminate the U.S. debt ceiling, an unprecedented demand from a GOP leader. The problem here is, don't you have your Department of Governmental Efficiency to reduce the debt? Or are you trying to eliminate the ceiling so you can rank it up in the next 2 years? They also suspended, it would suspend the debt ceiling for 2 years. Ultimately, that's what they agreed upon, and include $110 billion in disaster aid. However, the bill failed to pass the House due to opposition from Republicans on the debt ceiling measure and near universal Democratic rejection, accusing the GOP of bowing to Musk's influence. If the shutdown occurs, federal employees would be furloughed, but essential workers like TSA and air traffic controllers would remain on duty without pay until the government is funded. So the voting went the following way. House members, including 38 Republicans, rejected a spending plan endorsed by Trump. The government will shut down at midnight if lawmakers cannot reach a deal. At Trump's request, the plan included a 2-year suspension of the debt ceiling. Some conservative members said it could lead to excessive government spending. Really? Of course. Speaker Mike Johnson's spending deal was undercut by Trump and Elon Musk. The debacle has sparked new talk of ousting Johnson. And here's a video, because I'm pretty sure you're not watching Fox News, so I did it for you. This is who they want to replace Johnson with. Take a look.
Historic moment, it's fallen apart. And as a result, somebody's going to have to lose their job over this. I don't think the speaker is going to remain in power. That's my prediction. I'm not in the House. If I'm correct in that, and I think I am, we need bold new leadership, outside leadership, and I think it needs to be a Doge speaker. It needs to be either Vivek Ramaswamy or it needs to be Elon Musk. Look, I was over here.
And it sounds ha hee hee, but this is officially being discussed now on the Hill. Now, as to tweets and how everything went down. So first, this was the statement from the White House speaker, Karine Jean-Pierre, who says, quote, Republicans are doing the bidding of their billionaire benefactors at the expense of hardworking Americans. Republicans are breaking their word to support a bipartisan agreement that would lower prescription drug costs and make it harder to offshore jobs to China, and instead putting forward a bill that paves the way for tax breaks for billionaires while cutting critical programs working families count on, from Social Security to Head Start. President Biden supports the bipartisan agreement to keep the government open, help communities recovering from disasters, and lower costs, not the giveaway for billionaires that Republicans are proposing at the 11th hour. And so then everything got flipped, and somehow Trump said, yeah, I mean, Democrats vote for the bill because we need, to sponsor farmers and we need to provide people with disaster relief. Meanwhile, it was all about that debt ceiling. That, what ultimately what they do, and this is interesting because I was talking about it yesterday with an advisor, and what Trump's campaign pretty much did. They listened to what people had to say and complain about. They repeated it to them, right? Sort of orchestrating this idea or making people believe that they do understand what they complain about and they will solve it, right? Meanwhile, they will do their own thing. So they told everybody we need to reduce debt. We need to lower the price for groceries and all that kind of stuff. Meanwhile, they're going to do what they're going to do, which does not in any way crisscross with whatever they promised. So then Trump tweeted yesterday before the vote, their success in Washington. So they were guesstimating that all of this stuff will go through. Then he said, vote for the bill because farmers, and the people impacted by devastating hurricanes. Speaker Johnson tweets it and says, yes, tonight we're going to vote. Fantastic. Bernie Sanders says Elon Musk, the richest man in the world, is threatening to unseat elected officials if they do not follow his orders to shut down the government during the holidays. Are we still in a democracy, or have we already moved to oligarchy and authoritarianism? Anyway, then everything falls apart. And Trump sends this press release to the media saying nearly every single House Democrat just voted against the government funding. All but two voted against it. And then he says these 197 Democrats voted against the government to keep the government open, disaster relief, and aid the farmers. As Vice President-elect J.D. Vance said, Democrats asked for a shutdown, and I think that's exactly what they're going to get. Very interestingly, he does not mention 38 Republicans who voted against it. Republicans who said we didn't have a chance to read it. Also, why are we, really true blue or true red Republicans who said, I will not vote to eliminate the debt ceiling. I will not vote to or up the debt ceiling for the next 2 years, because that is not corresponding with what Trump has promised. Again, groceries, debt. He's promising you whatever you want to hear, right? It's like that dude you go on a date with who'll tell you the story just to, do the deed, and then he's gone. Same idea here. Very cheap, very salesman-y, sort of like cheap cars salesman. So, yeah, and that's on that. So what we have to see is, no, I do have videos. Wait a second. I just added them. I remember. Okay, so now, what did they eliminate from that second bill that ultimately failed through? Check this out. This is astonishing.
They cut nearly $200 million in funding for, ready for this, childhood cancer research called the Gabriella Miller Kids First Pediatric Research Program. That's what they cut. That program was established on a bipartisan basis under President Obama. Former Republican leader Eric Cantor was one of the driving forces behind it. Republicans tore the funding for that program out of the bill, seemingly at random, because Elon Musk told them to. So I want to be clear about what's happened, what's transpired in the last 24 hours, okay? The richest man in the world, worth $250 billion, took $190 million away from kids with cancer. That's not hyperbole. It's not exaggeration. That is what has happened.
And then that's what Speaker Johnson had to say.
Can you just stop at the mic, sir, and explain what's going on?
Yeah, look, it is very disappointing that...
Camera, watch out.
Okay.
Watch out. Move back.
That's the full camera.
Sorry, thank you, sir.
Very disappointing to us that all but two Democrats voted against aid to farmers and ranchers, against disaster relief, against all these bipartisan measures that had already been negotiated and decided upon. Again, the only difference on this legislation was that we would push the debt ceiling to January of 2027. I want you all to remember that it was just last spring that the same Democrats berated Republicans and said
that, plus eliminating the aid for kids with cancer or cancer research. He's not mentioning that because who cares, right? In other news, a Georgia appeals court ruled to disqualify Fani Willis from prosecuting the election interference case against Trump due to her romantic relationship with Nathan Wade, the lawyer she hired for the case. Now, this is out of the window. Trump transferred his shares in his social media company, Trump Media, to a trust managed by his son, Donald Trump Jr. So he's preparing pretty much to step into power. Officially, U.S. authorities arrested a Chinese man accused of being involved in an attempt to influence local politics in California. This man, by the way, also transferred $18 million to Trump. Former New York Governor Andrew Cuomo intends to file a defamation lawsuit against a woman who accused him of sexual harassment during his time in office. He's also seen to run either for mayor or governor of New York. We'll see. Trump is threatening Europe now with tariffs unless it increases purchases of U.S. oil and gas, leaving European leaders uncertain on how to avoid a trade conflict. It's expanding. Federal prosecutors charged Luigi Mangione with murder in the death of United Healthcare CEO with a potential death sentence if convicted. So he has been flown yesterday to New York City. He's in the same Brooklyn jail as Sean Diddy Combs, and they share lawyers. So the lawyers are married to each other. Now, if you have missed your packages from Amazon, they're on strike. I have a readout on that. But also Starbucks baristas in Los Angeles, Chicago, and Seattle have announced a strike for today. So if you are in that city and you want to get your coffee, maybe consider doing it yourself. Now, what today President Biden did announce at 5 a.m. in the morning is additional debt forgiveness for service workers. He says, today, my administration is announcing student debt cancellation for another 55,000 public service workers, bringing the total number of individuals who have been approved for student debt relief under my administration to nearly 5 million people through various actions. The public servants approved for debt cancellation today include teachers, nurses, service members, law enforcement officials, and other public service workers who have dedicated their lives to giving back to their communities and who are finally earning the relief they are entitled to under the law. So this is the good news. And so if this is you, congratulations. And it's been a long time overdue. Now, as to our economy, we have a new update that also came out just this morning as I was, that's Pope Francis, just as I was going live. So here's a statement from our National Economic Advisor, Brainard, on November 2024 PCE and third quarter 2024 GDP. Mind you, it always comes about like a month late, right? So today's report shows the PCE inflation has remained below 2.5% for 4 months in a row, while yesterday's report showed GDP grew by 3.1% in the third quarter. Growth has been 3% per year on average since the beginning of 2021, higher than any other presidential term in the 21st century. Let's remember those words, okay? Because we're going to be told a tale. So prices remain too high for working families, and we will keep fighting to lower costs for families on key items like housing, groceries, and healthcare. So, well, as to this, meanwhile, Musk was tweeting this interesting picture. Remember, there was the initial picture was of Trump sitting and Musk standing next to him, where Trump tweeted that he was begging me for money, and if I were to tell him just to go on his knees, he would have done it. Now he's reversing faces and tweeting it and saying, cool. Describes it pretty much. Now, President Biden will be traveling. They have announced travel to Rome, Italy for November. And so President Joe Biden will travel to Rome on January 9th to 12th to meet separately with His Holiness Pope Francis, President of Italy, Sergio Mattarella, and Prime Minister of Italy, Giorgia Meloni. On January 10th, President Biden will have an audience with the Pope and discuss efforts to advance peace around the world. He will also meet with Italy's leaders to highlight the strength of the U.S.-Italy relationship and thank Prime Minister Meloni for her strong leadership of the G7 over the past year and discuss important challenges facing the world. He also had a call with Pope Francis yesterday. Second time. Where he stated that he pretty much accepted Pope Francis' invitation to visit Vatican next month. And so that's ultimately what he will be doing. So this is the latest from the White House. Now, I know that bunch of people are posting videos that suddenly President Biden is returning to the White House and the VP Harris is returning to the White House and something will go on and the world will go down and Musk will be in jail on now December 20th. Cut out the BS, okay? Wishful thinking is one story. Factual information is another story. As to President Biden, he has been scheduled to come back from Delaware. He was in Delaware, not because he left on vacation. He was in Delaware day before yesterday, because it was the 52nd anniversary since the tragic death of his wife and daughter. They had a ceremony. It was they went to church. They visited the graves. It was a very solemn occasion. Every bit of family was there. I did not report on this because that's their privacy. And then he was scheduled to return home yesterday. Why? This morning, their president and the first lady, Dr. Biden, are visiting Children's Hospital, bringing gifts, having a off-press event to dedicated to kids, but also service members and nurses and those who take care of those kids. It has been scheduled for over a month. As to the fencing, fencing went up. Fencing went up in October because of the inauguration. First of all, it was because of the election. Now because of the inauguration. Also, press risers are across the north portico of White House. I posted video of that and pictures. This is for inauguration. VP Harris, yes, was scheduled to fly to Los Angeles yesterday for an event to come right away back. The event was canceled because of this situation with the government shutdown. And yes, she would need to certify or whatever she will need to do, so she is staying here over the weekend. Let's not dive into conspiracy theories. This is not going to make anyone stronger, not me, nor you, nor anybody. Keep your head on a swivel. Don't get into this wishful thinking bonanza. Doesn't help anybody, okay? As to comments real quick. Also easing restrictions on China. Mo, good morning, Mo. Yes, USPS increasing by 5.6% December 23rd. They also want to privatize USPS. So the talk is about Bezos buying it. I have to get a meeting to have a good, Okay, Rosemary, have a good day. All right. As to FAA, they now prohibit drones over New Jersey. Well, they have announced that on Thursday that they're temporarily prohibiting drone flights over 22 utility locations in New Jersey for a 30-day period. It's also, by the way, includes partially New York as well. The decision follows rising public concern and was made at the request of federal security agencies as a precautionary measure. The FAA action comes shortly after it imposed similar restrictions on drone flights over 2 sites in New Jersey in November. The expanded ban underscores heightened security measures around critical infrastructure. The agency stated that the move was made in an abundance of caution to address potential safety and security risks. So, interagency briefings still pretty much present the same picture as to the drone sightings are usually either helicopters or regular airplanes. There are over 1 million drones that can legally be flown in the United States, and so we should be calming down. Nothing is happening. So that's just the latest from them. Now you go with that information, and think what you're entitled to think to. Now, that's potential loom. Okay, we have discussed that. All right. So what I wanted to note, though, about the government shutdown, which I did not mention earlier, let's not forget that it happened during Trump administration, right? So during his record-breaking 35-day government shutdown of 2018 and 19, one of 2 shutdowns under Trump, during his first term, 420,000 federal workers were required to work without pay, while 380,000 were furloughed. The shutdown cost the U.S. economy $6 billion per week and reduced Q4 GDP by 0.1%. So this is not kicks and giggles. It will be shown monetarily. It will be shown fiscally. So, I mean, yeah, F around, find out. As to New York City Mayor Adams and his legal team filed a request on Tuesday night to pause his public corruption case until January 20th, obviously the day Trump comes into power. And he's pretty much hoping for a pardon. So now, as to Texas Governor Greg Abbott announced a $100,000 billboard campaign. That billboard campaign is all about scaring off migrants. And well, it shows what they're going to face here, right? One billboard reads, quote, "How much did you pay to have your daughter raped?" unquote, while another warns that migrants entering Texas illegally will be arrested. The campaign aims to persuade migrants not to come into President-elect Donald Trump's USA. So, although Biden's stricter measures earlier this year led to significant decline in legal crossings, by the way, 60% lower crossings than during Trump administration. Okay, so just saying. Abbott emphasized the importance of communicating consequences to potential migrants. Additionally, Texas plans to offer 1,400 acres near the border to Trump's administration to support mass deportation efforts, aka concentration camps. Okay. Now, as to Democrats, a group of 37 Democratic lawmakers led by Representatives Lloyd Doggett and Rosa DeLauro and Senator Sheldon Whitehouse have urged U.S. Trade Representative Katherine Tai to accelerate efforts to weaken or eliminate investor-state dispute settlement provisions in U.S. trade agreements. These mechanisms allow companies to bypass local courts and resolve disputes with governments through external tribunals. So what they pretty much do, if a foreign company that is operating in the United States has a dispute, whether it's a class action suit or any type of lawsuit, they can pretty much deal with the government, with the federal government, right? Which can be biased, which can be lobbied, which can be bought, right? Or affected in any type of way. And they are escaping local courts. So what the Democrats are fighting for is eliminating this provision, eliminating this policy, so the companies would be going as any other American company through the stages of the court system. So let's see how this will work. Of course, Trump is against it. So Amazon.com workers are on strike at 7 U.S. facilities. They staged a walkout early Thursday, yesterday. Of course, it's a very busy period before Christmas. So if you're waiting for your Christmas gifts or you are trying to buy your Christmas gifts off Amazon, perhaps consider a different option. Small businesses, perhaps, that would be the best option to consider. Now, the difference here is that this time they are supported by Teamsters. And Teamsters are sort of milking this idea and using the idea of providing Amazon workers with the chance to build their own union. Now, my question is, if we read between the lines, right? Teamsters altogether supported Kamala Harris, right? They first supported Joe Biden, then Kamala Harris. The Teamsters leader, right, this Sean O'Brien, he supported Trump, right? He was also the one mixed into the delays with the ports, right, with the entire negotiation with the ports. Then it was revealed how rich the guy is. So is Trump in favor of unionizing Amazon? Is that why Bezos running to Mar-a-Lago and kissing the ring? Or are they trying to push Bezos to do something else by having those strikes? That's sort of the idea I'm trying to figure out. Hey, Brandon, good morning. Good morning. So the protests are in New York, Atlanta, and San Francisco. So, quote, if your package is delayed during the holidays, you can blame Amazon's insatiable greed, said Teamsters General President O'Brien, right? So the strike is on them. They claim that Amazon is at fault. Now, we know how badly Amazon treats their workers, right? People not being able to use bathroom. They have to, wear all type of pads and stuff like that. So they do have a point. The point here being, is the Teamsters guy a good partner in that regard? What is his interest to join this, picket line? So the company Amazon, which employs 1.5 million people globally, has emphasized its preference for direct relationship with workers. Despite the strike, Amazon shares rose slightly in pre-market trading, signaling that investors anticipate minimal disruption. Earlier this year, Amazon announced $2.1 billion investment to raise wages for its U.S. fulfillment and transportation workers, increasing base pay by at least $1.50 to an average of $22 per hour, a 7% hike. strike. The strike highlights ongoing tensions between e-commerce giant and organized labor. Bonnie says, hey, Bonnie, good morning. I order directly from seller, not Amazon. And that's a good way, right? Yesterday, I spoke to several sellers and they said, well, the problem is that Amazon is now prohibiting sellers from sending direct messages or emails to their buyers. So before, if let's say your package was delayed or anything like that, you could message your seller or the seller could message you. Now, this is prohibited. Also, Amazon through Google and those sort of like automatic processes is tracking the sellers' websites. So if you were to mention, let's say now, since Amazon is down, order from our website, it's, guaranteed delivery, your account will be banned from Amazon. So they do track now the websites and the emails from the sellers, which is putting somebody into this golden cage, right? If you can sell through us, great. If not, you're doomed. You're on your own. Now, the Treasury also reported, the U.S. Department of the Treasury released its Treasury International Capital data for October 2024 today, reporting a net TIC, that's the Treasury International Capital, inflow of $203.6 billion. This figure includes net foreign acquisitions of long-term securities, short-term U.S. securities, and banking flows. So ultimately, the deep dive is in your newsletter, also in the podcast. I have read it out yesterday, so please check it out. Main idea here is that the net foreign private inflow is 220 billion, outflow is 16.4. So people are investing in the United States. Now, the next data will be released on January 17th, 2025. So we're going to see an update on that. Now, Pentagon Press Secretary General Pat Ryder, provided the following readout where Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin spoke by phone with Republic of Korea Acting Minister of National Defense. Remember, they have impeached their prime minister it's acting minister, right? They have impeached their minister because he called for like martial law and to protect himself and to sit in power, to stay in power. And everybody protested against it, and they have impeached him now for this act. Now, our Secretary of Defense spoke to him to discuss the shared values and focus on ensuring the combined U.S. ROK defense posture remains strong and ready to respond to any external provocations or threats. Secretary Austin committed to the security of the ROK and said this is ironclad. If anything were to happen to South Korea, they will be, or they, meaning us, United States, will be providing assistance. The secretary and the acting minister discussed the readiness of the combined U.S. ROK defense posture and ongoing work to enhance extended deterrence, modernize alliance capabilities, and strengthen regional cooperation. Now, as to Putin, I order directly their president rather than, that's their president. Well, it says minister, prime minister, president. Okay. Let me get back to that. Now, Putin held a direct line. So what this is, every year, Putin goes on live on all channels, on all this propaganda, Russian television networks, radio stations, whatnot. He sits there and for hours he answers questions from the press. Of course, it sounds like, wow, this is great, right? Transparency in action, democracy in action. The leader sits there. You can ask him any questions. Yes, but the leader is also really deranged. And I have the readout on the highlights of his answers. He was openly harassing different journalists. For instance, there was BBC. He said, oh, let's give a chance to BBC. They promised to hurt me. Well, they do it anyway. That's what they paid for. And stuff like that, right? They would not take questions from, of course, Ukrainian reporters. And he revealed the way of thinking, right? His weird way of thinking. And then I have the response from Ukraine's President Zelensky on that. So first, Putin said he described his war as entertainment. He says war is emotion. And he confessed that he finds periods of stability boring. He stated, quote, "When everything is calm, stable, measured, we get bored. We want some action. But when action begins, we get scared," unquote. He also challenged the West for a duel. He says he proposed a hypothetical experiment where the West suggesting a high-tech duel with the West, suggesting a high-tech duel. He provocatively challenged Western nations to concentrate their air defenses in Kiev, claiming Russia would target the area to test their outcomes. He said, look, bring all your defense system to Kiev, and we're going to knock it out with Oreshnik. And then we're going to see whose technology is stronger. So on that regard, Zelensky has replied. He held a press conference after, and he said, look, this video is already existing, so check it out, what he has to say. I have two videos from Zelensky. This has subtitles, so please come closer so you can read what he said. Take a look.
І вони завжди про це говорять. Демілітаризація, денацифікація, головний нацист сьогодні на планеті Путін говорить про денацифікацію українців. Демілітаризація, далі вони, щоб армія України не існувала, або щось там, я не пам'ятаю, говорили про 40-50 тисяч. Тобто він просто пропонував Україні здатися, заморозити конфлікт, змінити напрямок розвитку ні Європа, ні НАТО, а напрямок в Російську Федерацію, щоб вони керували нашою державою, позбавити нас незалежності. І ця людина говорить, що це якісь угоди. Просто старий фантазер.
Calling him an old fantasist. If you couldn't read it, he said pretty much Russia calls for demilitarization, denuclearization, which already happened before, denazifications. But at this point, Putin is the only Nazi, right? And Russia as a country is the fascist country at this point. So what they've tried to do is to push Ukraine to, cease fire, but also to pretty much give up territory, demilitarize the territory as well, so Russia can take over. So at this point, just makes no sense. But to his direct comment on bombing Kiev, take a look.
Сьогодні товариш із Кремля сказав, що Росія пропонує технологічну дуель. Так, сьогодні є відео, можете подивитись. Путін сказав, що технологічну дуель, каже, що ми вдаримо, наприклад, кудись по Києву, а вони нехай поставлять проти Орешникам цієї нової ракети, а вони нехай поставлять протиповітряну оборону. Ну і подивимось, що буде. Ну, ви вважаєте, що це адекватна людина? Просто відморозки.
He then tweeted, Zelensky tweeted and said, people are dying and he thinks, meaning Putin, thinks this is, quote, interesting. And then he called him a dumbass. Deservingly so. It is an understatement. Oh, by the way, here's the tweet, right? People are dying and he thinks it's interesting. Dumbass. In Russian, it sounds even better. So let's pause with the Putin story and let's go back to Kiev. What happened last night? Yesterday was St. Nicholas Day in Ukraine. And what Russians did, they bombed the St. Nicholas Cathedral. Here's a video. So that's pretty much to test the air defense system. Now, back to Putin's story. He claims Russia had success in Syria, which makes no sense. Russian leader declared that his actions had not only safeguarded Russia, but also stepped back from the edge of abyss. Putin asserted that Russia's involvement in Syria was limited to its 2 military bases, denying the presence of Russian troops, despite evidence to the contrary. I mean, they're withdrawing. There are long lines of troops withdrawing. So if you didn't have troops, who is withdrawing? He also claimed that the primary beneficiary of Syrian war was Israel, and emphasized that Russia's goals in Syria had been achieved because terrorists had not gained power. Terrorists had not gained power because terrorists now live in Moscow on asylum, meaning Bashar al-Assad. But when it comes to ISIS, yes, ISIS is not taking power. Okay. ISIS is not taking power because based on US-sponsored troops, they're doing everything, specifically Kurdish troops are doing everything to prohibit ISIS from taking power. Now, is this loud? I think it is loud, right? I'll try to continue. Okay. I'm not at home, so this is not the environment I control. Then he actually said that on Ukraine, Putin suggested that Moscow would only engage in peace talks with President Zelensky if he ran in legitimate elections and gained legitimacy. He added a cryptic comment about offering Zelensky asylum if he ever found himself abandoned by Western allies. And, so pretty much he compares Zelensky to Bashar al-Assad, right? And the previous president of Ukraine, Yanukovych, who's also gotten asylum in Russia and lives right next door to Bashar al-Assad. And so he pretty much is referring to that Zelensky is not legitimate in his eyes as to his term has run out. But because of the war, there cannot be no elections. And so I have pointed it out over a month ago. While I was in DC, everybody said I'm bala bala. No, it's not. When Putin feels that he is very close to being sat down at the table to negotiate, he will say that I will not do anything with Zelensky because his signature will mean nothing because he's not the president calendar-wise at this point. So we'll see what will ultimately happen, but that's really. Putin's comments reflect disturbing view of war and a refusal to accept responsibility for Russia's international actions. His rhetoric underscores an ongoing attempt to distort historical and political realities, presenting Russia as a global power acting in self-defense. So none of that is true. And we have to, again, keep our heads on a swivel, knowing what's right and what's wrong, because this type of propaganda will make you believe that, the earth is flat and, we're just going to fall off of it any minute. So now, interesting thing that I wanted to present to you. Do I have this? I don't have it. Okay. So yesterday, I was really honored to join a conversation on Zoom with our Secretary of the Air Force. He's outgoing Secretary of the Air Force. Trump is putting his own. And he was really straightforward. I have a deep dive in your newsletter and also on the podcast. So you have all the resources to listen to it. I know this is very noisy at this point, but there he spoke about the challenges with the Air Force, meaning Air Force is quite small. It's less than 2,500 people, but it's very well trained. And he said that, yes, our limitation is the size of the Air Force, but you can't really fix it by adding more people. You have to add more planes. Hence, Pentagon has invested in production of F-35, right? The planes that were very successful in targeting ISIS military targets in Syria, right? Then he mentioned that Elon Musk is, coming into the, Air Force, starts talking in Pentagon that they have to divest into F-35s and they have to just replace every single pilot and plane with drones. To which he said, the Secretary of the Air Force, his name is Frank Kendall. He's very experienced, very poised, so knowledgeable, will be very much missed, as I see on the reaction to his interview within Pentagon as well. And he mentioned that, Musk should learn this business first before commenting, because strategy, tactic, None of that can be applied to drones. And drones, as much as Pentagon is using it, as much as they have proven, the UAVs have been proven very effective in war in Ukraine, right, or against Ukraine. They do their job, but you cannot replace a human brain pretty much with the drones. Also, there's a very big threat, right, cyber threat, as to drones can be reprogrammed and used against you, where you become the target, right? So for this reason, it is very important to, to have mindful individuals controlling Pentagon and not just let Musk do whatever he wants to do in Congress and Pentagon, everywhere. So then he also spoke about how his goal setting went. So when he entered into his job, he asked the leader to say, well, Commander-in-Chief Biden at this point, he asked, what should be my goal? Which war should Air Force be ready to fight? And he was told China's invasion or aggression from China and possibly Russia. So they have prepared for that. Then the situation in Ukraine has changed the trajectory. And he said, now we are ready to defend any NATO member from Russia's aggression or invasion, right? And ultimately, what else? Then he was asked to provide any advice for an incoming Secretary of the Air Force. And he said, look, it all depends on your experience. And he's like, well, who's coming from Musk or Trump are business people. And just remember that Pentagon or Department of Defense is not meant to make profit. It's meant to defeat and win, not make profit. So learn this business first. And if you don't know, ask those brave men and women who have been serving for a long time for an advice, because they will follow your policy to a T. They will do everything 100% the way you want. But before we destroy everything we have built, ask them what would be a wise thing to do if you are lacking experience. But the video was circulating yesterday where Musk was speaking to the Air Force. Again, private individuals, not elected, not nominated, speaks to our men and women of the Air Force. Take a look.
Hey, it's great to see you. Great to be here. It's great to see this level of enthusiasm. I think seeing this level of enthusiasm makes me really excited about the future. And I cannot emphasize enough, just fight like hell to make the future great.
Fight like hell to make the future great. And Mo, I'm going to quote you. Musk needs to shut the hell up. No one elected him. We don't care. He bought Trump. No one elected Elon, says Bonnie. Yes, he has no authority and they shouldn't know to that man baby. They shouldn't bow. Okay. Alexander says it looks like Musk losing EV car market steadily and desperately trying to invade another cash cow business. Indeed. And Alexander, I'm going to add to that. Cash cow business meaning United States. Trying to rip everything apart and monetize every single part of it. That's how it looks like. I mean, I'd love to be convinced otherwise. What else do I have for you? Now, Pentagon has acknowledged that we have not 900 troops in Syria, as previously reported, by 2,000, but 2,000 troops. They said this is temporarily. This is now to protect our interests and the area of responsibility, as they always call it. But normally, it should be 900 troops. Now it's 2,000. Now, China's nuclear arsenal expanded. This is a big report presented. It's an extensive report presented by Pentagon. I have put a deep dive into your email and the newsletter. By the way, if you don't know where the email is, it's on honest.substack.com right here, honest.substack.com. Please join. Everything will be migrating to the website on January 1st because I trust myself and I trust not to do anything with your data, and I trust myself to allow myself to speak the truth. So since Substack is partnering with a company that's fully sponsored by Peter Thiel, we will be migrating. But please join honest.substack.com. That's where you get your actual news. Okay. Now, as to the podcast, It's on all podcast platforms: Apple, Spotify, Pandora, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, wherever you want to consume it, it's there. So The Actual News Podcast. Please get it there. 4 episodes have been out. It's daily actual news. All right. So continuing about China. So China has rapidly expanded its nuclear arsenal, growing its operational warhead stockpile from 500 to 600 in the year leading up to mid-2024. According to U.S. Department of Defense latest report on Beijing's military capabilities, which highlighted significant advancements in China's nuclear program, despite internal challenges stemming from corruption scandals within its armed forces. Well, it was pretty much guesstimated that by 2030, they're going to have 1,500 nuclear warheads. Now, because of this report, it's going to be 1,000 warheads by 2030. The reason for it potentially is corruption. But again, they're accelerating. They're trying to take control over that industry. But in general, what is that going to change? If we were to sell everything to China with Musk, then we'll see. Now, White House is seeking assistance from HTS, from this rebel group, Turkish-sponsored rebel group, to find our journalist Austin Tice. He has been imprisoned, in Damascus in 2012, and since is being considered there and alive. And so U.S. has given all the names of the Bashar al-Assad's generals and those who could have been in charge to help the rebel group to find him. This is a very not an average approach, if you will, to ask rebel group or those who have overtaken Syria to find an individual, a U.S. citizen. But White House is trusting that they will do a better job than U.S. trying to do it just through our intelligence community. And so for this reason, the rebel group said that they will do their best, and they agreed to help. Now, Namibian government has initiated an investigation into Chinese firm Xingfeng for alleged illegal mining activities in one of the country's lithium-rich regions, and their energy ministry announced yesterday. So Namibia is home to Africa's 4th richest lithium reserves, according to U.S. Geological Survey, and has seen growing interest in its critical mineral deposits. Now, lithium, why is it important? Because it's a key component in batteries for electric vehicles and renewable energy technologies, and it has become a highly sought-after resource globally. So the investigation is pending. Now, NATO has promised to create a new post command or the new command post in Germany for just dedicated to deal with Ukrainian help, with allocating funds, with allocating military equipment, and just taking charge of everything that's happening in Ukraine. So according to Mark Rutte, the Secretary General, the post has started, is operating now in Wiesbaden in Germany, and they are very much focused on how to help Ukraine withstand the pressure from Russia, but also to be prepared for an offensive as well. So to quote Secretary Blinken, who is in New York currently, or has been in New York for the last 2 days, he said, it's up to Ukraine to decide if they want to negotiate or fight. I would add to that Ukraine is showing you for 38 months that Ukraine is here to fight, not to negotiate. So give Ukraine, provide them with everything they need to fight. Now, of course, the government shutdown, if it were to happen right here, will stop this $5.6 billion to go to Ukraine, because, again, everything will be frozen. Is this one of the interests to shut down the government? Might be. So next, U.S. also pledges $200 million in humanitarian aid for Sudan amid ongoing crisis. Secretary Blinken was at the UN in New York at the Security Council, where he announced an additional $200 million in humanitarian aid for Sudan on Thursday, addressing food, shelter, and healthcare needs amid the ongoing conflict. Now, the conflict in Sudan has resulted in tens of thousands of deaths and caused the world's largest displacement crisis, underscoring the critical need for international support and effective aid delivery mechanisms. So this is the latest on political news. I will make sure to keep you updated today in your newsletter, again, right here on substack.com. And also this, please sign up. You can support, you can join free. Just please join. Main thing, get your actual news. And if you support, I'm very grateful for you. By the way, if this is any use, it has been of any use for you, please like this video wherever you watch it, share it, make sure just to make sure that people have access to actual news, right? It's very important for the algorithms and things alike. So in your newsletter, you have a tab which says, are you ready to listen to this newsletter? So you can tap listen now, which connects you to the podcast. So you can read the newsletter or you can listen to the newsletter. I would do both because, or just go skim through the newsletter if you're listening to the podcast, because there are videos that I'm adding to the newsletter, which is difficult to add to the podcast. So, but the podcast alone, if you just want to do the podcast, the actual news podcast is available everywhere. And to finish off on some positive news, if you watch NFL, well, on Christmas Day, for the first time in U.S. history, I think, the first game will be live on Netflix. I know that the previous fight, right, between what was this? The YouTuber and Tyson, right, went a bit gloomy on Netflix. It has been buffering this time. I hope this time it will be better. But the point is, the big game will be on Netflix live on December 25th, and the halftime show would be headlined by Beyonce. So if you like Beyonce, you don't have to wait for, what is it? Super Bowl or anything. This will be live on Netflix, a big halftime show with Beyonce. And so to finish on a better note, here's a fun video from Kamala Harris hosting a town hall in California where she genuinely wanted to provide a woman with a bit of limelight for her business. Now, she didn't know what the business was. Take a look.
Hello, good afternoon. My name is Nina Joyner. I own a retail business called Fillmore. And
what's it called? Give a plug to yourself.
Can I?
Yes, you can.
It's a sex shop in Oakland called Fillmore.
I'm sorry, Reverend.
He's my minister.
Go ahead.
My question, thank you guys. My question has changed so much, but what I really want to know from you is, we see so much stress on the internet and everything is just in turmoil. If we look at it, we see that the world.
Yes. And so also, Alexander, thank you for pointing it out. Tomorrow is the big Usyk fight. So if you like boxing or any type of fights, please tune in. I mean, you probably know the Ukrainian hero. Now, it's available to buy on TNT Sports Box Office in the UK via Discovery, Prime Video, Virgin Media TV, and EETV. So again, depending where you are, you can Google and find out where to watch it. And Bonnie, yes, she's blushing. Yeah, she totally. It's happening in church, like Reverend. It's like, yes, sex shop. But anyway. All of that is human. All of that is very normal. I'd rather prefer to watch this than whatever we're dealing with now. And Alexander said, Jack Paul. Yes, the YouTuber, Jack Paul and the Mike Tyson. Yes. So we're done. Friday is over for the morning AM news. Now in the afternoon, I'll see you on the podcast and in the newsletter. Everything is called The Actual News. Through the weekend, I'm going to work on our app. So we have that by the beginning of the year, and we can transfer everything to a safe spot with no, Peter Thiel's, Musk's, and everybody controlling the algorithms. So on this note, I wish you a peaceful day, a peaceful night, and a peaceful weekend. If anything were to happen, like doozy boozy, I will come back either with the video or on the podcast. So just if you're on socials, if you're subscribed to the newsletter, you will get the latest updates. So stay tuned. I will delay tonight's newsletter a little bit to see what happens with the government shutdown, yes or no, but certainly not until the midnight. So expected by 6-7 p.m. All right. Okay, guys, thank you so much for watching. Big watcher of PBS and support them as they are under threat. PBS, will be defunded indeed. TGIF, Brandon says, have a great day, folks. Have a good weekend, Olga. Yes, Brandon, have a great weekend. Yes, Alexander is waving us. Okay, on this note, I'm going to join Alexander. Wish you a great weekend. Stay safe and see you on Monday in the morning. Thank you, Bonnie. Thank you. All right, have a peaceful day. See you on Monday Live.